This is your new GEM4000. I have this one turned off. I'm just using it to show you how to insert a cartridge and a little bit about your instrument. Just wanted to tell you that the screen is a touch screen. Don't use any harsh abrasives for cleaning. You can use a very damp piece of gauze and gently clean the area as so, but no harsh abrasives. The outside can be cleaned with anything you like with no issues. Your new cartridges for your GEM4000 will look like so. The cartridge actually lasts a week longer, depending on your test size. They vary anywhere from 150, 300, 450 to 600. All your waste and everything is included in here. This must be disposed of in a red container when you are done. With this, all pump windings, all your electrodes, your coax, and everything is now built in. We have an e-prompt reader instead of a barcode, such as on the cartridges you now on your 3000. So actually when this cartridge goes in, it will actually take a few seconds to read that. It's important to see on the bottom of these, it's got little insert grooves here. So when we open the door of the GEM4000, there's actually bars inside there that will grab this cartridge. So when you actually insert the cartridge like so, the door must be all the way open to the left. You simply slide your cartridge in. It sticks out just a hair. As you pull and close the door, the cartridge is pulled back inside. I'm going to turn this just a second so you can see. Cartridge must go straight in. Door must be all the way open. The door will grab the cartridge and pull it in place. Once the door closes and locks, within 5 seconds it reads the e-prompt card and will start the warm-up process. The warm-up process on the GEM4000 is 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, it will come up with your CVP due. When the CVP is due, it will be bright yellow. Once you insert your new GEM4000 cartridge and after your 40-minute warm-up is up, to run your CVP, simply grab the CVP box, which is now being an elongated box. The valves will be a bright fuchsia color. That's for your coax. You simply shake it, the valve, 10 times. You come and pick sample type and CVP, and you hit the go button. The probe will extend. You can take your ampule breaker or a piece of gauze to break and release your ampule. You pick the type that you want, 601, CVP2, and the lot number. Place it on the probe. Hit OK to aspirate. As it aspirates, it tells you it's aspirating. When it's finished with the amount it needs, it will beep at you and tell you to remove the sample. You must put your operator ID in. You can scan that with your badge. Hit OK and view results. Your high and low are right here. Green and white is always good. If anything comes in bright red, it did not pass. If it did not pass and it's PO2, the first thing to think of is the room temperature. If your room temperature is very cold or very hot, your PO2 will be affected. If you're assured that the PO2 is not affected due to temperature, you can then run it through a calibration. After, if it fails, you can run it through a 2-point calibration called an IQM process. Right at a minute into your minute-and-a-half analysis, the first half of your results will come up. If they're all in, it's all green, such as these. If anything's out, the entire line will be bright red. But as you can tell, all these are in. They're within the low and high range of each one. It takes another 30 seconds for the co-oximetry results to come in. So it's once again a 1.5 minute process to run your CVP. Once these are in, everything's white and green. That means good, no red parameters. You simply hit accept. You would then run the level 2. We only have a level 1 and level 2 to run at the beginning of each cartridge. On your GEM4000 screen, as you can see here, we have a menu bar. If you simply touch that, it draws the menu bar up and down. The first thing on the menu bar is help. This is where you can find the training videos. It will go through all the steps and process such as running CVP, acceptable anticoagulants, how to remove a cartridge, anything that you can think of that you may have missed or forgotten or haven't done in a while, you can simply take the time to review these videos, find the chapter you need, and review those. The one below that is View Contacts. Under there is our 1-800 tech support line. The number is also on the side of the instrument should you need to call our tech support. We're actually open 24/7. Most of our tech support have been with IL for over 20 years, so most of them are really going to be very familiar with your GEM4000. If I sit home, it takes us back to that menu. I'm going to touch our drop-down menu. The next thing on there is search results. Anytime you want to search results, you are going to have to put in your password. Your password is your name badge. It's on your name badge. You can scan that. If you happen to know what that is, you can type that in. Always keep your passcode to yourself. This way you can search criteria any way you can imagine. If you know the patient's name, who drew it, the sample type, and so forth, as well as the time. No matter who drew what, simply put whatever you need and select that. I'm going to hit all and just show you everything that I've drawn in the past 8 hours. If I simply touch on my test patient here, it will pull that patient up. You can also go to patient history, and any gas that's been drawn on that patient throughout the critical care, point of care, shall I say, will show up. The gases drawn outside, say in the ICU or one of the units, are not going to be on here. But if you've repeatedly drawn the same gas throughout the day during their OR stay or cath stay, they will be there and you can actually see them. The first part here will be the gas that you just had drawn, the last one you drew, the change in between the one before and the previous history. You get out of the screen, simply hit close. You can simply hit close here and close here. That brings you back to your search menu. Home will always take you back to the home area. The next thing on the menu is GEM1 Plus. That's more where we do configuration and such. You should not have to go in there. Diagnostics is our next drop down. This is where you actually run an IQM process, or also known as a 2-point cal. Should your CVP not pass when you run it, you will be prompted to run an IQM process. It's always important to remember, if you go to run the CVP and it does not pass, first think of temperature. If it's your PO2 and the room is very hot or very cold, PO2 is very sensitive to temperature. A lot of these are in the ORs where the room temperatures are very cold. If you should hold your CVP in your hand too much or be in a very warm area, it too will affect your PO2. If you're pretty sure PO2 is not the issue, you can actually simply touch a run IQM process, which will put it in a 2-point cal. Below that, the only other thing you might need here would be copy IL data. Should your cartridge need to be removed for an analyte that doesn't make it to its full life, please make sure that whatever the process that you return cartridges or give us that information is addressed there, and that we get that data back so that we can replace your cartridges that don't make it to their full life. Below that is remove cartridge. When you touch that, it prompts you, it says you cannot reuse this cartridge again. Once the cartridge is removed, there's no putting it back in, so be sure this is a maneuver that you really want to do prior to. It will also have a passcode where you'll have to put your ID in as well. The next thing on that list, of course, is restart and shut down. There may be times where there would be a reason to restart and shut down. You would probably be on the phone with tech support or myself or point of care should that arise. It's very important to remember that if you should have to move this instrument for any reason and do not get it plugged back in within 20 minutes, you will lose that cartridge. Even if we're on a battery backup, it's important to remember if you do move this and it's on a cart with a battery backup to plug it in as quickly as possible. You do not want to lose that cartridge and have to start over. Touch menu to come back up. The top up here is more or less called your information bar. Anything green and ready is good to go. You're ready to run a sample. If you do not see green and it does not say ready, it will actually direct you to what the issue is and why it can't be used at that time. You'll also see the name of your instrument and location is up there. Should you have to call tech support or actually your IT people because your interface is down, this is the number they're going to want, the letters or numbers that they want. The next thing over here, where it says on in black, this is where, if it is on in black, information is crossing over to your LIS. If you should view this area and it say red and off or be yellow, there's an issue with the information crossing over. You should then contact your LIS people to make sure that would get you back up and running. The IQM on, when that is yellow, it's actually running the IQM process. The IQM is our way of QC. It actually does a QC on scheduled times throughout the day, 4 different process control solutions, and after every blood gas. So we're assured that the next sample you run is going to be within range and is going to be a correct value. The next one over from that is tests and days. That's the amount that's left on your cartridge. When it gets close to its end of life or end of sample amount, it will actually turn yellow and direct you to that. If you touch it, it actually tells you the exact time and date that that cartridge will expire. These cartridges, you remember, will actually last 4 weeks instead of the 3, as your GEM4000 did. There's actually an envelope here. If that is yellow, you can touch that. It will be, usually it's an information stating that maybe your interface was down for a bit. Actually, supervisors and such can send messages to this instrument directly. Important thing is, you see it yellow, simply touch it and you can address anything on there. The screen that you see now is actually your Start New Sample screen. This is what you always want to get to when you're ready to run your new sample if it's not already here. Or if you're running back-to-back gases, you'll always want to hit Start New Sample and be prepared to go. Your tabs here are the most frequently used tabs. If you hit Panels here, it gives you more panels to choose from. You can simply go back through here, touch the one that you need. Once you find the one you're looking for, simply touch that, highlight that. I'm going to hit ECM, hit back. Make sure the tests, the analytes that you're wanting to analyze are highlighted in green. The light colored will not be resulted with this gas. After that, you hit the type. Once you hit your sample type, it's either arterial or venous. Once you have that, you hit go. So we're talking a 1, 2, 3 step process to run in a blood gas. Once we are ready, we bring our sample. Make sure it's well mixed, no air in our syringe. Must be heparinized. We must mix our sample with the heparinized syringe for 30 seconds in a rock and roll fashion. This analyzer only receives heparinized blood. If the blood is not mixed well with heparin, there will be clotting issues and the sample will not be valid. Once the sample is well mixed, your analytes are chose, your type is chose, hit go, the green button. Your sample probe will come down. Simply take your syringe, place it all the way on the sample probe. Make sure you're not occluding the base of the probe. Hit OK to start the aspiration. It actually tells you it's aspirating. Once it's done with its aspiration, it will give you a beep. Remove the sample. It tells you there as well. Get the air out of your syringe in case the sample needs to be reran. From this screen, anything dark with an asterisk is mandatory for getting a result. Patient ID is your MR number. You have 2 ways of addressing your MR number. You can actually scan it with the barcode with the scanner, like so, by hitting key entry, or you can simply type in your MR number if you do not have a barcode to scan. I will tap this patient in right now. Hit enter at the bottom right hand corner, and then your patient will be pulled up through the database. My patient's name is Z-Test. Operator ID is mandatory. You can actually use this to scan your badge, or if you actually know it, you can just type it in. Once you've entered the mandatory information, hit view results. The blood gas portion will come up in the first minute. The next 30 seconds, then any co-oximetry results you've chosen will come up. It takes 1.5 minutes to run a blood gas sample. We'll actually go through 1.5 minutes QC after that sample. So if you need to have another sample to run, it takes basically 3 minutes before you can get to your next sample. Once everything's read, once the sample is fully analyzed, Here's where you need to accept or exclude this sample. Should your patient name not match the accepted value, once it's time to accept your value, you need to make sure that your patient information, the name at the top, is correct. Do not accept the patient under any circumstances unless you're sure this is the correct patient. Once you hit accept, it not only goes into the patient's medical record, but also for billing. By accepting, I have now put that in the patient's record, and it is now being billed. To start the next sample, simply hit Start New Sample. We'll come back to this screen. As soon as the processing is done, or the QC after the gas is complete, you'll be able to run a new sample as soon as the countdown is complete. There it goes. To run a blood gas on the GEM4000, make sure your sample is in a heparinized syringe with the proper amount of heparin. Make sure no air is in the sample. Make sure the sample is properly mixed. The sample should be mixed for 30 seconds using a rock and roll technique as such. Once your sample is properly mixed, come to your GEM4000 instrument. Wait for it to say ready, then do step 1, 2, and 3. First, choose your analytes that you'll be using. If you don't see the panel that you want readily available, hit More Panels, simply scan over until you find the panels that you're looking for. Simply touch that panel to select it, hit back, make sure all the analytes you're wanting to use are highlighted in green. If they are gray, such as this one here, you will not receive a result for that sample. Once you have assured that your analytes you need tested are selected from the panel, go to Sample Type. You have a choice of either arterial or venous. Once you've made that selection, hit the green Go button. At this time, the probe will extend. Remove the cap from your sample. Place the syringe on the probe. Make sure not to occlude the bottom. Go all the way on and then pull back just a hair. Make sure the sample probe is within the blood. Then press the OK button to start aspiration. The information bar at the top will tell you it's aspirating. Once it's aspirated the proper amount of blood, simply remove your syringe, and the screen for your patient data and your operator ID will come up. Anything dark with an asterisk is mandatory. When you select that, patient ID, which is your MR number of the patient, hit Key Entry. Once Key Entry is touched and selected, you have the option of either scanning the barcode of the patient's MR number, or you may manually enter this number by simply typing it in. I will manually enter one now. Once you have that in, hit Enter at the bottom right hand corner. You'll see that the patient's name, first and last name, and their gender will pull up from your LIS. Simply hit Operator ID. At this point you can scan that in from your badge, or if you happen to know your operator ID, you can type it in at that as well. Once you have all this information selected and you're sure that you have the right patient, touch View Results. Within the first minute, you'll get your blood gas electrolytes. The next 30 seconds will pull up your coax results. It takes a minute and a half to run a sample, and then it will perform a QC immediately after that. That takes a minute and a half. You can rerun the next sample within 3 minutes. Once you see at the bottom that the sample has finished its analysis, you simply can choose Accept or Exclude. If you choose accept, from that point on, it goes into the patient's medical record as well as creates an order for this patient. Before you hit accept, you need to make sure your patient's name is correct at the top. If it is not, it needs to go back and address that by simply touching enter information. Go back to view results and make sure the patient's name at the top is correct. If this is the correct patient, simply hit accept, and it will now be into the patient's medical record. You can also at this point view patient's history. If this patient had other blood gases run throughout the point of care areas, you will see that gas and the previous samples run on this patient, as well as the delta in the tube. You can close that out right there, just like on a Windows page, and it'll bring you back to your screen. When you're ready to start a new sample, you simply hit Start New Sample, and that will bring this screen back up.